Following the death of their commander during the ambush on the Imperial and High Elf columns, the Dark Elf army turned and fled. What looked to be a victory had transformed into a rout. Coldwind Knights and Corsairs alike suddenly lost their stomach for the fight and ran off the field, jeopardizing the entire raiding operation. The captain of the Black Ark ordered Dark Lord Velis, a veteran of the Witch King's own Blackguard, to take charge of the deteriorating situation and rally the troops. He would need to fight a rearguard action to allow the bulk of their force to retreat safely into the Black Ark. Knowing failure would mean his death, either at the hands of the enemy or by his own captain, Velis pressed his older brother, the dark sorcerer Belshazzar, into his service. Together, they marched forth with a regiment of repeater crossbowmen for their escort. Either the remnants of the Dark Elf ambushing force would turn round and fight, or together, Velis and Belshazzar would put them all to the sword.
On the other side, despite their heavy casualties and the loss of their own commander, his younger brother Morvan assumed command and pressed the advantage. Mustering additional expeditionary troops from amongst the crew of the High Elf fleet, including Morvan's former regiment of shadow warriors, now entrusted to the command of his loyal lieutenant Ysgrael. As the High Elf expeditionary force came ashore, they were joined by locally levied mercenaries in the form of a regiment of crack Bretonnian archers, a unit of resolute halflings, and an imperial cannon and its crew. Upon learning that Velas was likely to deploy the forces of dark magic, Morvan ensured that he had a suitable match in the High Elf mage Serigond, a veteran of his craft, who was amongst the reinforcements that came ashore in readiness to strike vengeance upon the evil Dark Kin.
The two forces met on a largely open field in Nordland in the north of the Empire. Still wet with half-melted snow fallen from the night before, by the day's end it would run red with the blood of the fallen. On turn one, the Dark Elf and Goblin host marched forward. Well, all except the Hydra, who failed his bound monster test, stopping to allow his many heads to debate whether they should eat the enemy directly or roast him first.
The High Elf army's strength lay in its ranged fire, and so refrained from any movement, instead safe in the knowledge that with longbow in hand, many of the Dark Army's forces would be within range. Although the cannon and bolt throwers failed to hit, the enemy appeared visibly shaken, and the High Elf archers, shadow warriors, Bretonnian archers, and halflings all pressed their advantage, felling 8 enemies along the way. The two wizards engaged in a magical duel, both supplementing their attacks with power cards, with the High Elf mage eventually being successful in casting the Glamour of Teclis upon the unsuspecting War Hydra, hoping to limit its abilities throughout the battle.
This time it was the trolls' turn to stop and ponder the meaning of life, failing their stupidity test with a roll of 11. They shambled forward at half speed and moved right into a wood. The Hydra decided he could do both, eat raw and cooked elves, and so proceeded apace, despite the glamour of Teclis trying to stop him. Not even a legendary wizard spell is enough to stop a Hydra who's decided it's dinner time. Meanwhile, on the flank, the Cold Ones also failed their stupidity test and stopped to lick the yellow snow. This would leave them wide open for a volley from the Bretonnian longbowmen on the following turn. The Goblins and Corsairs marched forward, and the repeater crossbows let loose a return volley into the halflings, paying them back with 2 casualties. In the magic phase, Belshazzar's attempt to cast a Doombolt was dispelled by his counterpart, the High Elf mage.
As the red mist of vengeance for his fallen brother descended, Morvan and his loyal griffin charged the cold-blooded Corsairs, who were resolute in the face of the terrifying monster. In the ensuing fight, one of magic weapons, lucky blows, and monstrous entangles, Lord Velas, the Dark Elf Lord, was killed outright by Morvan's brother, loyal Griffin. Fitting justice indeed. In the melee, the High Elf general was unharmed, but the Corsair's might repelled him, causing him to fall back, ready to fight again, not satisfied with the single kill. The cannon let fly, this time with great success, wiping a rank from the night goblins whilst the bolt thrower hit its mark, scoring 2 wounds on the trolls, one of which they were able to regenerate through their innate but disgusting ability to regrow their own flesh. The sky was darkened once more by a volley of arrow fire, raining down upon the enemy, causing 5 further kills and a wound on the vicious Hydra.
Following the death of Lord Velis to the hungry griffin, most of his army took flight. The crossbowmen, goblins, and trolls continued to run, while the Cold One Knights managed to take charge of their mounts and turn them round. The Hydra let loose a torrent of flame upon the Bretonnian arrowhead formation, killing 8 of them. Meanwhile, the Corsairs continued their desperate fight against the High Elf Lord, landing 2 wounds, both of which Mark saved. Their standard and rank bonus was enough to drive off the Lord, however, and send him back to his lines for a breather and a spot of tea.
Whilst the retreat of the High Elf General gave rise to concern from 2 nearby regiments, both passed their panic checks and stood firm. The artillery proved ineffective this turn, with both crews narrowly missing their quarries. However, the shots of the small unit of High Elf archers were true, killing 3 goblins in the process. The spearmen took their opportunity to charge the vile Corsairs, killing 1 but taking 2 casualties of their own. However, under their fluttering banner of defiance, they were able to stay locked in combat to exact their vengeance for another round. The Shadow Warriors, overcome by their absolute hatred of their dark kin, struck at the totem, the fearsome War Hydra, exacting 2 wounds, but in the process losing Serigon to the fray. The High Elf Mage, not well equipped for monster hunting, was unable to resist the urge to attack, sadly losing his life on the field of battle.
In their final turn, the goblins, trolls, and crossbowmen continued their flight. The Hydra unleashed another torrent of green flame, immolating 11 Bretonnians and 1 Shadow Warrior. But despite these horrendous casualties, they continued to fight on, showing the world that it is not only the Bretonnian nobility who can fight honorably. The Corsairs met the pointy end of the High Elf spearmen, fighting in 3 ranks and killing 3 Corsairs, easily winning the combat when combined with the double rank bonus from their magic banner. In the magic phase, Belshazzar attempted to summon the power of chaos to unleash the power of the dark gods against his foes, only to roll a 1 and be sucked into the warp, where he would be tormented for the rest of eternity. Kids, there's a lesson to be learned here.
With the end of the battle nigh, the Bretonnian archers took 1 more volley at the Cold One Knights, but were unable to inflict any wounds. The bolt thrower had similar ambitions, at least hitting and wounding 1 Cold One Knight, but the Dart Riders and their scaly mounts held firm under the stress. The cannon was primed and fired once more at the goblin horde, determined to inflict yet more kills, but the shot glided just over their heads, causing nothing more than a thunderous roar and a gust of wind. The spearmen, still locked in combat with the Corsairs, pulled out all the stops, hitting 7, wounding 6, and killing 5. But still, true to their evil spirit, the Black Ark's finest stood firm. Finally, in a bid to rid the battlefield of the most vile adversary, the Shadow Warriors took 1 final attack at the dreaded Hydra, hitting effectively but only causing 1 wound and losing 2 of their number for the privilege.
As the sun set on the field of battle, only the Dark Elf's Hydra remained defiant, bellowing in rage and belching forth sheets of sickly green flame. Lord Velis was no more, having been devoured by the High Elf Lordling's griffin, and his brother Belshazzar pulled irrevocably into the realm of chaos to meet an even worse fate. Thinking the better of it, the Cold One Knights retired in good order, leaving the Corsairs to be surrounded and hacked apart by their High Elven brethren. The griffin was stirring again, and they had no desire to be within eyesight of it come dinner time. Perhaps those poor Corsairs would fight on long enough to give the rest of their kind enough time to make it out safely to the Black Ark. But the Cold One Knights would not stick around to find out.
As Morvan surveyed the battlefield, emptying before his eyes, only the elite Hydra and Corsairs remaining brave enough to still fight, he recognized that he had exacted the revenge for his brother and caused a deep cut to the Dark Elves' forces. He removed his gauntlet, offering his delicate skin to the griffin who nuzzled against it, clearly proud that he was the one that delivered the killing blow to avenge his former master. No battle ever ends well, but this was a decisive blow to the ambitions of these filthy raiders, and the High Elves once more honoured their eternal pledge of allegiance to the men and halflings of the Old World. But, although the forces of evil were left licking their wounds, Morvan knew all too well that it was a matter of when, not if, they would return.